In Screen 1, we have American Animals, starring Barry Keoghan and Evan Peters in the lead roles. It is directed by Bart Layton. Now, I didn't know this going in, as it is part of my policy, which you're all probably sick of hearing by now. But my policy is to go in as blind as possible. So I only found out who the director was afterwards, but it made perfect sense that this movie was directed by Barry Layton once I had finished watching and found out who it was directed by. Barry Layton is the guy who directed the documentary The Imposter a few years back. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It's also one of the most cinematic documentaries I've ever seen, and it is almost a documentary that wears its exploitation on its sleeve, so to speak. It's exploitative to us, the audience, rather than its subjects, I would say. It's the type of documentary that doesn't really hide how many liberties it probably takes in its approach and its construction, which is not a problem for me for two reasons that work kind of side by side, really, even though they are two separate things. First of all, it's so entertaining. Secondly, it has that backbone of truth that the movie is grounded in. You know, when you watch a movie that is a true story, and just because you get that text at the beginning, you're kind of less questioning of all the outlandish things, the kind of things you would even question more in an entirely fictional movie. I think documentaries afford you that kind of leeway to question things less in a big way. And there's a third reason, actually, when it comes to The Imposter, which I've been kind of dancing around because I don't want to ruin the story for The Imposter for you. But the third reason is it's one of the most bizarrest, most inconceivable stories there ever was. It's probably a story, actually, that had it been fictional, you would have found it hard to watch. The concept seems so unbelievable to be taken seriously. So yeah, in short, go see The Imposter. Now, while The Imposter was maybe the high watermark for exciting documentaries, with a kind of cinematic aesthetic almost and presentation, American Animals surely is the high watermark for documentaries with dramatized events. Although to call it that would be a massive oversimplification by me. But I'll explain what I mean. My wife, for instance, has currently discovered the Sony Crime Channel, and my evenings are now filled with trashy documentaries about murders, complete with interviews with the real people, but also these soapy-like dramatizations of events as well, complete with really bad acting and often terrible directing. Well, American Animals is like that in form. It's a story about four young men who attempt one of the most audacious heists in American history. So we have the real people involved narrating the story in that standard documentary form, except the dramatization parts are acted out not by washed up soap actors like we get on the Sony crime channels, but by amazing actors like Barry Keoghan and Evan Peters, actually, who impressed me here. I only really know him as Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, but he's very good here. But it's not as simple as the real people just retelling the story. It's highly experimental in its format. We get contradictions in narrative. We are getting different interpretations of events. We get scenes played out from different people's perspectives. The movie switches from its movie format to its talking heads, real people format, and at the right time always, and always in service of the film and what it is trying to do. And Barry Layton is really interested in narratives, the narratives we tell ourselves, or the roles we assign ourselves in our own stories, and how we see ourselves. And he uses a blend of genres and a blend of the different subgenres of heist movies even, to such an astonishing effect in American Animals at times that makes me believe the guy is a genius. I mean, The Imposter was fantastic and probably a better movie in a way, but The American Animals has confirmed that he is indeed a genius. And it also taps into that, I'm not sure if it's universal or not, but we've all fantasized about committing a crime and how we would get away with it, what we would do, how we would plan it and execute it. Well, we've probably all imagined our heists playing out with the slickness of George Clooney in Ocean's 11. Well, American Animals taps into that kind of wish fulfillment that we often use movies for, and why we often love genres like crime movies and heist movies and ultra slick movies, because it ties into our fantasy and how we see ourselves in our own stories, and how capable, I guess, we might think we would be if we actually attempted these things. Because I'm sure nobody fantasizes about botching a heist and it all going terribly wrong and the gritty side of what it actually would entail. But the movie manages to counteract that kind of wish fulfillment and sense of cool we get from heist movies with the real world ramifications and the kind of deadly consequence that is often lacking from our own fantasies and movies in general. And by blending that with the documentary genre and having interviews of the real people, it taps into something that I have never seen done in a movie before. Like, it's often easy to enjoy horrible things in movies because of that sense of escapism and fantasy, and that's why we love them. We are guilt-free. But by having the real people along for the tale, there is a weight of consequence and a depth of emotion that is often missing from movies attached to American Animals. It even manages to make you feel terrible for the parents of the kids in this movie who are planning the heist, and that's an achievement in itself. I can't think of any movie where I thought to myself while watching, the parents will be absolutely devastated if this goes wrong. It's an amazing achievement. Now, I also thought about this a lot as well. By having the real people involved as the talking heads from the beginning, you do lose a few things, especially for a movie centered around a heist. You do get a sense of a few things. Firstly, surely if they are telling this tale, they got caught at some stage at least. If all of them are here to tell the tale, they all survived. So for a heist movie built around the tension of pulling off the job and will they or won't they scenario, which I love, so to kind of show that card from the beginning, does it undercut the tension, and do you lose too much about what makes this genre great? While for sure you do lose something by that kind of reveal, I would definitely say it doesn't undercut very much at all. And based on all the positives gained, it was certainly worth showing that card, because I've never seen anything attempted like this before. Not just attempted, actually, but successfully done, which is what American Animals managed to achieve. And despite presenting the real people telling their story, maybe indicating that they eventually get caught, I'm not saying that they even did. I'm just telling you my assumption based on the format and how it dictated my movie watching. But despite me presuming the movie going a certain way from the beginning, it never made the movie any less tense to me, because the movie is glued with this real story. It makes everything in this movie on the dramatization side so tense. Everything, absolutely everything. I've rarely seen a movie so tense, because these people are almost guinea pigs in your mind for what would actually happen minus the fantasy. You know, these are the everymen trying to pull off something that is really audacious, and they're kind of surrogates for you in a way if you try to pull off something like this, and the film shows that. So it's really edge of your seat stuff. The real life talking heads are captivating as well. Barry Keoghan is absolutely fantastic. He reminds me of a young Edward Norton. The kid is going to be one of the best character actors out there, unless ironically he goes the way of old Edward Norton, I suppose. American Animals is just this real experimental piece of art. It's a piece of art kind of in the way something like Nocturnal Animals is, actually, except within the documentary format, I guess. It's very hard to class what this movie actually is, to be honest, but what it is something very good, something very unique, and something you absolutely need to see.